every story ends. In a world dominated by speed and innovation, we rarely remember those left behind. The history of the auto industry is not only a glittering success story, but also a graveyard of ambitions, masterpieces, and fallen legends. Since 1949, dozens of proud companies, from American giants to European innovators, have permanently shut down their production lines. The last car of each symbolizes the end of an era. Sometimes it was an unsuccessful rebranding, like Packard, which became Studebaker. Sometimes it was a brilliant but doomed project, like Saab. And sometimes it was an ordinary sedan that disappeared without glory, like the Pontiac G6 or Oldsmobile Alero. We'll travel to the abandoned factories of Detroit, Stockholm, and Coventry to remember these cars and brands that are gone forever. If you're drawn to this dark, dramatic side of automotive history, give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories about those who left the assembly line for good.
A 1958 Packard Hawk. Today we open a chapter dedicated to perhaps the most humiliating end in the history of the American auto industry, the end of Packard. In the early 1950s, Packard was more than just a car. It was a symbol of the American elite, a benchmark for luxury and engineering excellence, its name standing alongside Cadillac and Rolls-Royce. Packard cars were chosen by the measurements of presidents and the world's richest people. But in this cruel world, even kings can fall victim to ineffective management and corporate blindness. In the post-war years, Packard failed to keep up with the mass production imposed by the Big Three, GM, Ford, and Chrysler. Desperate to survive, management made a fatal mistake in 1954. The country found itself with the financially unstable Studebaker. Instead of saving Packard, Studebaker only hastened its demise. There was no money left to develop good cars worthy of the royal name. In 1956, the famous Packard plant in Detroit closed its gates forever. But the Packard name was too valuable to simply throw away. Studebaker management decided to squeeze the last vestiges of the legendary brand. The last cars produced in 1958 were assembled at the Studebaker plant in Indiana. And the final act of this drama was the purchase of a 1958 Packard Hawk. What was its essence? The Hawk was essentially a Studebaker Golden Hawk, but with re-glued front badges and a modified front end. Engineers tried to give it the appearance of an expensive Packard by slapping the often criticized fish mouth grille of Studebaker onto the front end. Inside, there were no luxurious materials or Packard's famous patents. It was a cheaper, simpler car. The Packard Hawk became a painful symbol of the brand. The brand, once a benchmark, was forced to sell clothing to servants under its royal crest. The public, of course, sensed the deception. Only 58 1958 Hawks were sold, after which Studebaker admitted to the damage and quietly discontinued the Packard name. It wasn't death from old age, but death from shame.
1960 Edsel Corsair. If Packard's story is a tragedy, then Edsel's is a pure, epic comedy of errors. In the mid-1950s, Ford Motor Company decided they needed a new brand to compete with General Motors. They spent a whopping $400 million, billions in today's money, on creating new brands. Marketers spent years researching consumers, hyping up the engine of the future. The title, named after Henry Ford's late son Edsel Ford, was meant to imbue the brand with a noble aura. The public expected a miracle. What they got was the Edsel. Design. Its distinctive vertical collar on the grille became its defining element. The public hated it, comparing it to a toilet seat, a horse collar, or worse, calling it a lemon-sucking Oldsmobile. Price. The Edsel was intended to fill a niche between Ford and Mercury, but its prices overlapped with both brands, confusing buyers. Time. The Edsel was launched in 1958. right during a severe American recession. No one wanted to buy an expensive, odd-looking car. By the 1960 model year, Edsel was desperately trying to survive. To save money, the company abandoned all its original shapes and expensive features, including the controversial vertical grille and push-button automatic transmission. The lineup was reduced to just two models, the Ranger and the Corsair. The last Edsel Corsair and its brother the Ranger looked very different. The designers made it look like a regular Ford Galaxy, completely removing the controversial vertical element. It was cleaner, but the harmony came too late. It was no longer the car of the future, but just another Ford. There was nothing left to justify the existence of a separate brand. Just a few weeks after the 1960 model year began, on November 19, 1959, Ford Motor Company announced the demise of Edsel. The last Edsel Corsairs rolled off the assembly line, becoming the embodiment of one of the most instructive stories in global business. They weren't faulty engineering machines, but they were victims of intense marketing, poor design, and bad timing. Edsel was shut down after producing just 118,655 cars. Ironically, today, these cars have become coveted collector's items. 1961 Chrysler DeSoto. A brand stuck in the middle, DeSoto was founded by Walter P. Chrysler in 1928 to occupy the golden mean in the Chrysler Empire, better than Plymouth but worse than Chrysler. The brand thrived, declared itself a progressive invention, and even became its first sponsor on Groucho Marx's famous television show. But in the late 1950s, this golden mean shifted west. The budget brand Dodge became increasingly luxurious, while the upscale Chrysler launched more affordable models like the new Newport. These two brands began to cannibalize DeSoto's territory, completely depriving it of its unique niche. By the 1961 model year, Chrysler had already decided to divest itself of DeSoto. It wasn't a gradual death throes like Packard's, but a sudden surgical operation. In 1961, DeSoto produced its final cars. It was a severely abbreviated lineup, just two models, a two-door and a four-door hardtop, and no official model name. They were simply called 1961 DeSoto. These cars were essentially rebadged, shortened versions of the Chrysler Windsor. Up front, they sported one of the most bizarre designs of the era, a ridiculous two-tiered grille with slanted headlights that no one liked. At the rear, the gigantic yet atmospheric fins remained. Production of the 1961 model year began in October 1960, but lasted only 47 days. On November 30, 1960, Chrysler announced to dealers that DeSoto production would cease immediately. The last 3,034 cars were assembled simply to calibrate those already ordered and use up leftover parts. The last 1961 DeSoto was rumored to be a turquoise and white two-door hardtop. Imagine waiting for your new car only for the company that delivered it to you to go bankrupt before you could even pick up the keys. Some DeSoto dealers, overwhelmed by unsold inventory, sued Chrysler. The company simply offered disappointed customers discounts on Dodge or Chrysler. The last 1961 DeSoto became a ghost, a nameless car from a brand killed by its creator. It was a quiet, hasty, and brutal end to a 33-year history. Ironically, these rare 1961 DeSotos, due to their status as the last of their kind and their distinctive, controversial design, are among the most coveted Mopar collector cars today.
1966 Studebaker Cruiser. Studebaker was the oldest automobile company in America, but by the 1960s, it was in serious trouble. After catastrophic financial losses, management made a desperate decision. In December 1963, they closed their massive, unprofitable plant in South Bend, Indiana. But car production isn't limited. Instead, Studebaker moved all its operations across the border to a smaller, more efficient plant in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. For the last 2 years, From 1964 to 1966, Studebaker became a Canadian automaker. This was a last desperate gamble. To cut costs, the model line was pared down while the idea of developing new engines continued. This became a clear fact. The last Studebakers of 1965 and 1966 no longer had the good Studebaker V8 engines. Instead, under their hoods was a Chevrolet engine. In fact, GM's Canadian subsidiary, McKinnon Industries, supplied Studebaker 6- and 8-cylinder engines, including the famous Chevy 283 V8. The 1966 Cruiser represented the pinnacle of this downsized line, a 4-door sedan on the extended Lark platform. Despite a completely new but somewhat bland 1966 facelift, with its signature trapezoidal grille gone, it was simple, reliable, and ironically, drove better than many of its leading competitors thanks to its reliable Chevy engine. Studebaker management set a goal. They needed to sell about 20,000 cars a year to stay afloat. In 1965, they almost achieved that. But 1966 marked the end. Sales collapsed. On March 4, 1966, after only about 9,000 1966 model year cars had been assembled, the company announced its closure. Just 2 weeks later, on March 17, 1966, the last Studebaker rolled off the Hamilton assembly line. It was a Studebaker Cruiser, a 4-door sedan in Timberline turquoise with a 2-tone roof and a Chevy 283 V8 engine. This particular car, the last Cruiser ever built and the last Studebaker, is now housed at the Studebaker National Museum in South Bend, Indiana. The story of the 1966 Studebaker Cruiser isn't just about a failed model. It's the story of how a brand that began life as a horse-drawn carriage in 1852 struggled to survive in the world of jet cars, even after being driven out of its own home. The 1966 Cruiser was a quiet finale. It wasn't futuristic like the Avanti or grandiose like the Edsel. It was simply the last, an ordinary car assembled from spare parts, symbolizing the end of an era for the auto industry's leader.
1988 AMC Eagle. In 1987, Chrysler acquired American Motors Corporation, AMC. The primary target of the purchase was the profitable Jeep brand and its plant in Brampton, Ontario. However, AMC also sold passenger cars, some of which were then built in the country by its partner, the French company Renault. To smooth out dealer agreements and market these new models and avoid confusion, Chrysler created a new brand, Eagle. Thus, 1988 was the first year of the Eagle brand's promotion, leveraging the results and developments gained from AMC. The last true AMC. The most significant AMC product sold in 1988 was the car that gave the new brand its name, AMC Eagle, sold as the Eagle Wagon. Significance: this was the last vehicle entirely developed by American Motors Corporation. Body type: station wagon only for the 1988 model year. Innovation: introduced in 1980, the AMC Eagle is considered the first executive production crossover utility vehicle, CUV, combining the comfort of a car with four-wheel drive, 4WD, and increased ground clearance. Sales: Chrysler collected and sold the remaining 1988 AMC Eagle stock, approximately 2,300 units, as the Eagle Wagon before finally discontinuing it in December 1988. In 1988, a new Eagle brand was also launched, which, although a collaboration between AMC and Renault, would become a defining feature of Chrysler's future. Model: Eagle Premier. Origin: developed by AMC and Renault on a platform related to the Renault 25 and built in a new state-of-the-art plant in Brampton, Ontario, a key asset desired by Chrysler. The Premier was highly regarded for its design and engineering, longitudinally mounted front-wheel drive, independent suspension. Its platform and concept formed the basis for the famous front-wheel drive Chrysler LH Series vehicles of the 1990s, Dodge Intrepid, Chrysler Concorde, and Eagle Vision. Thus, the phrase 1988 Eagle AMC signifies two things: AMC Eagle Wagon, the last gasp of the old AMC; Eagle Premier, the first step of the new Eagle brand based on AMC and Renault developments.